Gauteng Roads and Transport MEC is working to improve the province's infrastructure. This also includes tackling the dreaded potholes. At the same time, last week, Gauteng Premier Panyaza Lesufi told us here on the show that while the e-toll system has been scrapped, the issue of motorists who still owe Sanral is to be finalised. Let's talk about all these issues now and speak to KediboneDiale-Tlabela, Gauteng Roads and Transport MEC. Thank you so much, MEC, for your time this evening. I see, of course, there are several upgrades to roads, which include, work on some of the collapsed bridges. Let's talk about the upgrade, for example, on the Winnie Mandela Drive. How far is that?
Good evening and good evening to the viewers. Our upgrading program for all the road infrastructure that we own as a provincial government is ongoing. And we are working hard around the clock to make sure that we achieve our timelines and be able to hand over the road infrastructure back to people of Gauteng. So that is amongst the projects that we are working on, and we will make sure that we hand it over on time. Of course, it's not easy to develop road infrastructure. It's also faced with a whole lot of challenges and stoppages, but we're trying hard as a department to avoid those by ensuring that we work closely with communities where these projects are.
What are some of those challenges?
One of the challenges that we are faced with is community unrest. You'd understand that every time we try to develop anything, infrastructure as a government, people would want to benefit in various ways. Some are looking for jobs, some are looking for business opportunities as SMMEs. And in many cases, then contractors find themselves having to absorb more people as compared to what they need. And in other cases, it's issues of 30% that set aside for local communities. And the understanding is that local communities will then want to benefit that 30%. And in some instances, there'll be criminal elements. In some instances, there'll be genuine cases. But there will be a demand, and unfortunately, the resources are small to can be able to accommodate everyone, and that can create a conflict within communities. And that's what we are trying to avoid by ensuring social facilitation as and when we are in communities developing roads.
So, MEC, before then we move away from this particular issue, is there no standard that is being set? It's 2024 now. We've seen protests from different communities over the years where they say that if you're going to have a project in our community, at least take some of the people from the community to then be part of it. So if you're still having to struggle with some of these issues, is it because these things are not dealt with when you're planning?
They're dealt with, and we do it from time to time. You understand. Today, it's Kedibone who comes, and then we accommodate, because the guidelines are very clear. The framework is clear that you must include women, youth, people with disability, and the local communities. And sometimes it's a resurfacing job that will require maybe 20 laborers, and 200 people show up, and expect contractors to take more than that. And in instances where contractors are unable to, that creates an unrest. And sometimes same applies with SMMEs. You accommodate this SMME, the others come again. It's just a vicious circle, and it's one of the things that we are trying hard, and especially before we start projects, making sure that we do social facilitation through ward councillors and community organizations on the ground, just to understand the job profile, the jobs specs that were needed from the communities, but also use their databases to get individuals to participate in the project. And there are sometimes criminal elements, they take advantage of that. And sometimes it's genuine. You find people with disabilities are not considered, or they were not aware of the adverts done by the contractor to communities. And we need to then come in as a government to facilitate and help them to get through.
And I suppose, MEC, it also speaks to the issue of desperation, especially when it comes to jobs and the situation around that. But let's move on to the issue of, potholes. I mean, there was that pothole management system application, also known as the pothole app, that we saw, of course, over time after it was launched, seeing now that the figures stand at just, just below 2,000 when it comes to some of the potholes that are being fixed. So one then asks the question, because it's part of our viewer questions tonight, to say, why are we still struggling with potholes in 2024? Is this the fact that, poor material is being used to try and fix some of the roads? Because some of the potholes, when you look at, where they are, it looks like a reoccurring problem. And it's not just one thing that gets fixed and then we move on.
Yeah, that's one thing that we struggle with. And that's one thing that makes the people of the whole country be very angry. Because I would want to argue that I'm responsible for provincial roads, and people don't want to hear that. And even myself, I would not want to hear that that pothole must be fixed by X, not Y. And that's why, as a provincial government, we tried to work together with municipalities and draft a memorandum of understanding. Remember, AG and the legislation expect me to maintain my assets, the assets of the provincial government. But then when it comes to road maintenance, challenges of potholes are almost everywhere in municipalities and in the townships. And we are trying hard where we can to assist these municipalities that agree to be assisted. And we are also appealing to those that are not really agreeing for us to can come and assist, to allow us to help them on their roads. Another thing, the lifespan of some of these roads, be it municipal roads as well as some of the provincial roads, require resurfacing. Once you don't maintain roads, some of these challenges will persist. And you have seen us as a provincial government going into Emfuleni to assist. And you have heard the Premier also committing ourselves as a provincial government that we will go to the West Rand to go and help resurface, reseal some of their roads as well as some parts of Ikuruleni. So we are calling upon municipalities at our IGR processes to submit where they need assistance. We also have requested the minister to assist us with her Balazonke program. On our side, we are prioritizing municipal roads that goes to schools, graveyards, places of entertainment, malls, shopping malls, and main roads in different municipalities. That's where we go and fix potholes. But we are calling upon communities to use our fixed pothole app and report those potholes so that we see what we can do where we can on municipal roads. But on our provincial roads, you have seen us launching the 6,000 road maintenance brigades that are assisting us with grass cutting, fixing potholes, and other works that has to do with road maintenance. So we're trying hard. It's quite important to have quality roads to help us grow our economy, but also to be able to attract different investors into our province. You have seen
MEC, we're out of time, but in about 10 seconds, the Premier spoke about, the issue of e-tolls here on the show last week and said that the gantries will be used in crime-fighting efforts and all of that. But there is still that issue of people who are owing the system, motorists who are said to be owing the e-toll system. And he said there's going to be consultation with motorists in order to be able to speak about this issue and see how it all unfolds then. Have those consultations been set a date so we know when they happen and get an update on that?
There's a team set up, the provincial technical team together with national technical teams to look into that, and also in consultation with these various stakeholders on how to go about it. Remember, we are a consultative and public participatory democracy, so for some of these things that involve individuals, we need to consult also with them on what are the mechanisms we are putting in place and how are we going to be collecting that and when are we going to be doing that. So that is still under discussion, and all stakeholders are being consulted to make sure that we don't leave anyone behind. We don't want to make mistakes of before without consulting people and just making sure that we just implement. So there's still that thorough discussions and thorough consultation with various stakeholders.
All right, let's get an update then from you as soon as that has been finalized and the dates are done. And as you say, even with the issue of potholes, that it remains one of the headaches. But let's see then what happens in that particular regard. Appreciate your time. That is KediboneDiale-Tlabela, Gauteng Roads and Transport MEC.